Unfortunately, that's the only way I know. I find it very difficult to go up to someone and say, listen, do you mind awfully? I'll let it brew and try and figure out a way around it. And then when it doesn't, I'll just go up and choke them. No, it's a fault.
The thing that I think is wonderful about Mel is he has this great sense of humor about himself as well as about everything else. So he doesn't take himself too seriously, which when you're tackling something like this is a great quality to have. I think he also is very critical, so I think it might be I think he has gone through some painful moments if he feels that he hasn't really gotten it. Because in movie, you just have to move on. So he must have, I think he's had some frustrations because just of the nature of the material.
It certainly humbles you, that's good. But, no, this is a very valuable experience because after this, everything else is going to be a piece of cake.
Hamlet's a coiled spring. He tightens himself up with these introverted soliloquies and then, bang, along comes the release. Now it's the big fight scene.
Well, we started with 3 weeks before we actually started shooting, and that was 3 months ago. But for the last 3 weeks, I've been rehearsing every other day on the fight, and we haven't seen Mel once, really, apart from, I think, at the end of last week.
Will it make it difficult to do that?
Well, not really. He's very good. He picks it up very quickly. But he hasn't got the same fluency initially. But, we run it through a few times a day, and he's already looking like he's going to beat me.
The kind of fencing I mostly do is like with barbed wire and plain wire and concrete and steel posts, but I did a little bit when I was at school for a couple of years, just forced around. But they were usually light point weapons that we used. I didn't use any of these kind of. Well, this is the dummy aluminium one, but the steel one is like heavy.
Who said the pen is mightier than the sword? Certainly not Shakespeare. To him, the sword is truly the deadlier weapon. They rarely write showdown sequences like this in Hollywood today. No room for stunt doubles here. Hamlet's used up his supply of indecision. Now he has to let the juices flow.
Oh, yeah, it's cold. That's all right, I don't mind. It'll keep you cool. Pints of water. Yeah, they're coming out. They've sewn me into the costume, and I haven't had to get out in an emergency yet.
How much weight do you reckon you've lost?
Oh, I don't know, I suppose probably about 10 pounds.
It'll do for now.
It's not unusual to lose a lot of it like that much. I suppose if you're really sweating it out for a day. Probably more.
Come on!
You know, as I began to fight for Hamlet, I also started to understand him more. His main problem was that no one understood him. The court all thought him mad, and this caused him even to have doubts about himself. But throughout the play, his is the sole voice of sanity. In the thick of the fight, with no time to think, only to react, and completely absorbed in Hamlet's actions, I am him. His spirit enters me, and somehow we're fighting each other, and we're fighting together at the same time. I think it makes you grow up a little bit.
You don't much want to grow up, though, do you?
Who the hell wants to grow up? No. But it makes you take hold of the reins a bit more, you know, and do things you wouldn't have had the maturity to do before. Like have conversations with people you wouldn't have had before. So I guess that's good. It's been a real lesson in that way. Good, valuable experience, all of it.
I think he's brought probably a freshness to it. He's very powerful on screen. He's the kind of actor that doing nothing, he's riveting. He has that quality, which I think all great film actors have. And when you apply that to a character like Hamlet, it can be extremely powerful.
The original is so full and so rich that you are driven for a long time by a feeling this can't be working because there's just too much. Then it begins to feel that it is working. It's only feelings you get, vibrations, that enough of the right decisions were made for it to work. And I think it's happened here.
Hamlet 2?
Do you think there'll be a sequel?
Sure, why not? Yeah, I'm up for it. Hamlet comes back. No. Hamlet... No. I tell you what, I wouldn't mind shooting the whole thing again.